Hello everybody, today we'll be talking about photosynthesis. The introduction. Photosynthesis is the process whereby an organism manufactures their food in the presence of sunlight using carbon dioxide and water as substrate. So don't forget, in photosynthesis, plants manufacture their own food in the presence of sunlight using carbon dioxide and water as substrate. And photosynthesis is carried out by different organisms. Example are the plants, the algae, some protists, and cyanobacteria. So photosynthetic organisms contain green color pigments called chlorophyll. So don't forget, every photosynthetic organism has a pigment called chlorophyll, and this chlorophyll absorbs light energy and begin the process of photosynthesis. Maybe if you see it in your question, just know what chlorophyll begins the process of what photosynthesis. So now let's talk about the chloroplast. It would be a great injustice if we want to talk about the chlorophyll, but we don't talk about the chloroplast first. So chloroplasts are the photosynthesis factory of plants and algae, and they have two membranes. The first one is the outer membrane and the inner membrane, and this membrane encloses a protein-rich semi-liquid called stroma. So don't forget that what the stroma of a chloroplast is a rich semi-liquid material. It's a protein-rich semi-liquid material. That it is what that is stroma of the chloroplast. Let's move further. So within the stroma, a system of membrane bound stack called thylakoid stack on top of one another to form a characteristic column called grana. So in some textbook you will see that they will mention that what the chloroplast, inside the chloroplast are the stroma and grana, or what the grana is just found by what stacking what thylakoid membrane together, by stacking what thylakoid membrane together. So don't forget, the stroma is a semi-liquid material, while when thylakoid membrane stack together they form the grana. And photosynthesis partly occur within the stroma and partly occur within the thylakoid membrane. So we should move further now. So this is the chloroplast in plant. If we look at it, the stroma, the inner membrane, the outer membrane, and the thylakoid membrane. And the thylakoid membrane stack together to form what? The grana. So stages of photosynthesis now. There are three stages of photosynthesis. The first one is capturing light energy. The first one is using capture light energy to make ATP and reduce NADPH. And the third one is that what using the free energy of ATP and the reducing power of NADPH to synthesize organic compound such as glucose from carbon dioxide. So these are the three stages of photosynthesis, and it is broken down. You will understand what this topic if you just listen very well. It is very simple. This slide is not complex for you, that when you are preparing for your JAMB exam you will be able to understand everything very well. So let's move further now. The first two stages involve a series of reactions that are directly energized by light. They are called the light reaction. So the first two stages that we mentioned earlier are called the light reaction, and in some textbook you will see it as light dependent reaction. Light dependent reaction, while the reaction of the third stage is known as, it results in carbon fixation, and in some textbook you will see it as light independent reaction or dark reaction, But dark reaction is no longer used more again like that, because this third stage also occur in the day also. So it will be a great injustice if you are still calling it dark reaction. So but you can call it light independent reaction. Light independent reaction. So let's move further. The light reaction now. The light reaction begins when the photons strike a photosynthetic membrane, and this process is divided into three parts. The first process is the photoexcitation. And photoexcitation just means that absorption of a photon by an electron of a chlorophyll. So when light strike the chlorophyll molecule, it will become excited, and it will absorb photon. And the second one is the electron transport. Electron transport just involve the transfer of excited electron through a series of membrane bound electron carrier, resulting in the pumping of proton through the photosynthetic membrane, which creates an hydrogen ion reservoir and eventually reduces an electron acceptor. So this electron transport is just the transfer of the excited electron. The excited electron are being transferred through a series of membrane. And the third one is the chemiosmosis. It's just the movement of proton through ATP complexes and enzyme. An enzyme that converts ADP to ATP. The full meaning of ADP is adenosine diphosphate, and ATP is adenosine triphosphate. And this ATP is the energy currency of the cell, So chemiosmosis just involve the movement of proton through ATPase complex, and this enzyme will help in the conversion of ADP to ATP. So what do we call ATP again? The energy currency of the cell. That's adenosine triphosphate. So the light reaction involve a series of complex processes, and the overall goal that is achieved is simple. The first one is light energy is transferred to ATP and NADPH. Light energy is transferred to ATP and NADPH, and both of these substances play a critical role in the next phase of photosynthesis, and that next phase is carbon fixation. And this carbon fixation now, there are some places that they will just call it the Calvin cycle, or the light independent reaction rather, or the dark reaction. So don't forget, when they ask you talk about the dark reaction, just so that they are still talking about the Calvin cycle. And this reaction converts carbon dioxide into carbohydrate molecule. It converts carbon dioxide into carbohydrate molecule, and it occurs in the stroma. So when they ask you where does the dark reaction or Calvin cycle takes place, just tell them that it occurs in the stroma, and it has three phases. The first phase is carbon fixation, and in the carbon fixation, CO2 reacts with an enzyme. That enzyme is called Rubisco to form three phosphoglycerates, and three phosphoglycerates will form 1,3 biphosphoglycerate. So they will now go like that through a series of reaction. But just so that the first one is carbon fixation, the second one is reduction reaction, the third one is ribose 1-biphosphate regeneration. But just so that the essence of this cycle is to convert carbon dioxide into carbohydrates, and it occurs in the stroma. So these are the factors that affect the rate of photosynthesis. That's factors affecting the rate of photosynthesis. The first one is light intensity. We have temperature, and what oxygen concentration, light intensity, temperature and oxygen concentration. So thank you very much for listening. I really appreciate, and please don't forget to like and subscribe.